Martha Collins grabbed a bleeding Hell's Angel by his broken arm and screamed over the tornado's roar, "Move or die!" She was 67. She weighed 120 pounds, and she was dragging 79 of America's most feared outlaws into her cellar, while an EF-4 monster dropped from the sky 2 miles behind them. She didn't ask their names. She didn't care about their crimes. She saw men about to die, and she ran toward them. 4 minutes later, she sealed herself underground with 79 strangers. 5 days later, 300 bikers returned. They weren't there to thank her. They were there to reveal a secret her dead son had kept for 20 years. If this story moves you, subscribe and stay until the end. Comment your city below. We want to see how far Martha's story travels. The sky turned green at 4:47 p.m. Martha Collins dropped the coffee mug she was holding. It shattered against the porch floor, but she didn't look down. She couldn't. Her eyes were locked on that color spreading across the Oklahoma horizon like a bruise. She knew that green. It had killed her husband. The emergency sirens started screaming. Martha counted the seconds between each wail. 22 years of living alone had taught her to count everything. Seconds, dollars, days without hearing another human voice. Her phone buzzed. She didn't need to look. EF-4, Creek County, seek shelter immediately. "I know," she said to no one. "I'm going." But she didn't move. The wind hit 50 miles per hour. Her brown hair whipped across her face, stinging her eyes. The old farmhouse groaned behind her, boards creaking like an old man's knees. That's when she saw the headlights, dozens of them, cutting through the rain on Route 44 like a snake made of fire. Motorcycles. They were struggling. The wind was shoving them sideways, threatening to dump them into ditches. One by one, they pulled off the road, looking for shelter. There was no shelter out here, just Martha's farm and 60 acres of nothing. The first bike slid to a stop at her driveway. The rider was huge, black leather, face hidden behind a rain-soaked bandana. More bikes pulled up behind him. 10, 20, 40. Martha's stomach dropped. She could see their patches now. The death head, the letters stitched in red and white. Hell's Angels. "Run!" her brain screamed. "Get inside! Lock the door! Hide!" A bike went down. The rider hit the asphalt hard, his machine sliding out from under him, sparks flying. 2 men jumped off their bikes and ran to him. They pulled him up. His arm was hanging wrong, bone wrong. Behind them, the funnel dropped from the clouds. Martha was off the porch before she knew she was moving. "Hey!" She ran toward them, flashlight in hand, waving it like a madwoman. "Over here! Now!" The lead rider turned. Through his visor, she saw confusion. An old woman in a floral dress, sprinting towards 79 Hell's Angels in the middle of the apocalypse. "There's a cellar," Martha shouted. "Under my barn. Reinforced. You'll live." The rider lifted his visor. Gray beard, blue eyes cold as river stones. "Lady, do you know who we are? I know you're about to be dead if you don't move your ass. That tornado is 2 miles out and it doesn't give a damn about your patches." The man stared at her. 1 second, 2. "You heard her," he roared at his men. "Off the bikes! Follow her! Go!" 79 men abandoned their machines. Martha ran. The barn doors were stuck. "Move!" A biker shoulder-checked her aside and grabbed the handle. 2 more joined him. They pulled together, muscles straining, and the rusted steel screamed open. "Down! Everyone down!" Martha stood at the entrance, counting heads as they poured past her. 30, 40, 50. The injured man was carried by 2 brothers. His face was gray, shock setting in. 60, 70. The wind was a living thing now. It grabbed at Martha's dress, trying to drag her away. "That's everyone," the leader shouted. "Get in!" Martha looked back. The tornado was a mile away, maybe less, a black wall eating the world. She dove down the stairs. The leader followed. He grabbed the doors and pulled them shut just as the wind tried to rip them off their hinges. Clang! Darkness. Silence. Then the monster arrived. The cellar was 40 feet by 30, built to hold supplies, not people. 79 bikers pressed against each other in the dark. Martha could hear them breathing. Fast. Scared. She clicked on her lantern. Faces emerged from the shadows, tattooed, bearded, hard. But their eyes were the eyes of men who knew they might die tonight. Anyone injured besides the one with the arm? Martha's voice was steady. 35 years as an ER nurse. She'd seen worse than this. Blade's bleeding from his head too, someone said. Hit it when he went down. Bring him here. They carried him forward. Young, late 20s, blonde hair matted with blood and rain. His arm bent in the middle of his forearm where arms don't bend. Martha knelt beside him. Name. What? Your name, your real one. He blinked through the pain. Derek Hayes. Okay, Derek, I'm going to set this arm. It's going to hurt like hell. Bite down on this. She handed him a leather wallet. He shoved it between his teeth. Martha grabbed his arm. On 3. 1, she pulled. Derek screamed into the leather. The bones shifted back into place with a wet click. Done. She splinted it fast, wrapped it tight, moved to his head wound, cleaned it, closed it with butterfly bandages from her kit. You'll live, she said. Stay still. The tornado hit. The sound wasn't wind. It was a train, a jet engine, a god screaming. The cellar doors buckled inward. Dust exploded from the ceiling. The concrete walls groaned like they were being crushed in a giant fist. Someone was praying. Someone was crying. A big man in the corner had his hands over his ears, rocking back and forth. Everyone listen! Martha's voice cut through the chaos. 78 heads turned toward her. This cellar survived 2 tornadoes. It will survive this one. Stay low. Stay calm. We are going to live. The leader pushed through the crowd. In the lamplight, Martha read his patches. President. Hell's Angels. Oklahoma. Vincent Kane, he said. They call me Iron. Martha Collins. They call me Marty. Marty. Iron nodded once. You're either the bravest woman I've ever met or the craziest. Both. Sit down before you fall down. He sat. The tornado roared overhead for what felt like hours. Minutes. Martha couldn't tell anymore. Time had stopped making sense. She moved through the cellar. A young biker, couldn't be more than 22, was hyperventilating in the corner. Martha crouched beside him. Name. Tommy. Tommy, look at me. Not the ceiling. Me. He looked. Breathe with me. In through your nose. Out through your mouth. That's it. Again. She stayed with him until his breathing slowed, until the panic faded from his eyes. Thank you, he whispered. That's what we do. She moved on. Blankets for the ones who were shaking. Water for the ones who needed it. Words for the ones who were falling apart. Iron watched her. You've done this before, he said when she passed him. Survived a tornado? Taking care of people who are scared out of their minds. 35 years in the ER. Martha sat beside him, her back against the cold concrete. You see enough trauma, you learn how to stay calm when everything's falling apart. Why'd you quit? My husband died. Medical bills took everything. I couldn't afford to live in town anymore, so I moved out here. Took the only thing I had left. She gestured at the cellar walls. This place. Iron was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was 22 years ago. Still, the tornado screamed above them. Can I ask you something? Iron said. You just did. He almost smiled. Almost. Why did you help us? The truth. Martha stared at the concrete floor. She could feel the vibrations through her bones. The tornado was directly overhead now. Because I watched my husband die trying to save me, she said quietly. He threw me in this cellar and the tornado took him before he could get down the stairs. I spent 22 years asking myself what I could have done differently. 22 years of regret eating me alive. She looked at Iron. Tonight I saw you and your men out there, struggling, dying. And I thought, I have a cellar. I can save them. If I lock my door and hide, I become the person who let 79 men die when I could have helped. Most people would have. I'm not most people. Iron held her gaze. No, he said slowly, you're not. The silence came like a switch being flipped. One moment, the world was ending. The next, nothing. Martha stood up. Stay here. Like hell. She and Iron climbed the stairs together. He put his shoulder to the doors and pushed. They groaned, resisted, then gave way. Dawn was breaking. Martha's farmhouse was gone, not damaged, erased. The foundation was there, covered in debris, but the walls, the roof, the life she'd built for 40 years, gone. Her legs gave out. Iron caught her before she hit the ground. Easy, I've got you. My house, her voice cracked. Everything I have, gone. She pulled away from him and stumbled toward the wreckage. Her boots crunched on broken glass, splintered wood, shattered memories. There, a photograph, water damage but visible. Her, Robert, Danny, 30 years ago. Martha fell to her knees and clutched it to her chest. My son, she whispered. This is all I have left of my son. Iron approached slowly. What happened to him? Afghanistan, 20 years ago, IED. I'm sorry. He was a good boy. Martha traced Danny's face with her finger. All he ever wanted to do was protect people. That's why he enlisted. That's why he... She stopped. Iron was staring at the photograph. His face had gone pale. What? Martha asked. Nothing. Don't lie to me. What is it? Iron's jaw tightened. He looked away. It's nothing. He looks familiar, that's all. Familiar how? I don't know. Forget it. But Martha saw something in his eyes. Recognition. Shock. Something he was trying very hard to hide. You knew him, she said, didn't you? I said forget it. You knew my son. Marty, answer me. Iron flinched. The other bikers were climbing out of the cellar now, staring at the destruction, but Martha didn't see them. She only saw Iron, only saw the lie in his eyes. I can't, he said quietly. Not yet. I need to make some calls first. I need to be sure. Sure of what? He didn't answer. Sure of what? Iron turned away. He pulled out his phone and walked toward the remains of the barn, already dialing. Martha watched him go, her heart pounding. What wasn't he telling her? What did he know about Danny? The next 4 hours blurred together. Emergency vehicles arrived. Neighbors who still had homes came to help. The bikers, all 79 of them, stayed. They cleared debris. They salvaged what they could. They helped other families along Route 44 whose homes had been destroyed. But Iron kept his distance from Martha. Every time she tried to approach him, he was on the phone, walking away, avoiding her. By noon, the other bikers started gathering their motorcycles. Most had survived the storm. A few were totaled, but brothers doubled up, made it work. Iron finally approached her. We have to go, he said, but we'll be back. When? Soon. That's not an answer. Iron reached into his vest and pulled out a card. My number, anything you need, anytime, you call. Martha didn't take it. I don't want your number. I want the truth. You knew Danny. I saw it in your face. Iron's expression hardened. I need to verify some things first. If I'm right, you deserve to hear the full story, not pieces. What story? Marty, his voice softened. I promise you, I will come back, and when I do, I'll tell you everything. Why can't you tell me now? Because if I'm right, it changes everything. and you deserve to hear it properly." He pressed the card into her hand. "5 days," he said. "Give me 5 days." Then he walked to his bike, kicked it to life, and led 78 Hells Angels down Route 44. Martha watched until they disappeared. 5 days. What could he possibly need 5 days for? She looked down at the photograph still clutched in her hand. Danny's face smiled up at her from 30 years ago. "What didn't you tell me, baby?" she whispered. "What secrets did you take to your grave?" The photograph didn't answer, but somewhere in her gut, Martha knew. Whatever was coming would change everything she thought she knew about her son. Everything she thought she knew about his death. Everything. She had no idea how right she was. 5 days. Iron had asked for 5 days. Martha spent the first day in shock. She wandered through the debris of her farmhouse, picking up fragments of her life. A broken picture frame, a water-stained Bible, the handle of Robert's favorite coffee mug. She slept in her car that night. The back seat was cramped, her neck kinked at a painful angle, but she couldn't leave. This land was all she had left. The second day, her neighbor Earl drove over with his truck. "Marty, you can't stay out here." "I'm fine." "You're sleeping in a car." "I said I'm fine, Earl." He looked at the destruction around them. The foundation where her house used to be, the half-collapsed barn, the scattered debris that used to be her life. "Come stay with me and Linda. We've got a spare room." "No." "Marty." "I'm not leaving this land," her voice cracked. "Robert is buried here. Danny's memorial is here. I'm not leaving." Earl stared at her for a long moment. Then he sighed. "At least let me bring you a tent, some supplies." Martha nodded. She didn't have the energy to argue. Earl came back 2 hours later with a camping tent, a cooler full of food, and a portable generator. He helped her set up in the clearing beside the ruined barn. "Thank you," Martha said. "You're stubborn as hell, you know that? That's how I've survived this long." Earl drove away. Martha sat in front of her tent and watched the sun set over the destruction. What did Iron know about Danny? The question had been eating at her for 2 days. She barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Iron's face when he looked at that photograph. The recognition, the shock, the lie. He knew something big enough that he needed 5 days to verify it. What could possibly need verification? Danny died 20 years ago. There was a funeral, a flag, a letter from his commanding officer. Martha had the documents. She had the medals. She had the folded flag in a display case that was now somewhere under the rubble of her house. What was there to verify? The third day the Red Cross came. A woman in a crisp polo shirt walked across Martha's property with a clipboard. "Mrs. Collins? I'm Jennifer with Disaster Relief Services. We're here to help you." "I don't need help." "Ma'am, your home was completely destroyed. We have shelters set up in town. Hot meals, clean beds." "I said I don't need help." Jennifer's smile faltered. "There are also financial assistance programs. If you don't have insurance—" "I know I don't have insurance." Martha's voice was sharp. "I know I'm broke. I know I'm sleeping in a tent on what used to be my property. I don't need you to remind me. I'm just trying to. I've been taking care of myself for 67 years. I'll figure this out." Jennifer stared at her. Then she pulled a card from her clipboard. "If you change your mind, this is our number. We're here to help, Mrs. Collins. That's all." She walked away. Martha sat in her camping chair and watched her go. She knew she was being difficult. She knew she should accept help. But something was coming. She didn't know what. She didn't know when. But Iron had promised to return, and every instinct told her to wait. So she waited. The fourth day, her phone rang. Unknown number, Oklahoma area code. Martha's heart jumped. "Hello?" "Marty, it's Iron." She gripped the phone so hard her knuckles went white. "What did you find?" A pause. "I need to see you in person." "Tell me now." This isn't a phone conversation. I don't care, tell me. Another pause, longer this time. Did Danny ever mention the club to you? Martha's stomach dropped. What club? You know what club. No, I don't. Iron was quiet. When he spoke again, his voice was careful, measured. Marty, I'm coming to see you tomorrow. I'm bringing some people with me, people who knew your son. Knew him how? That's what I need to explain in person. Just tell me. Tomorrow, Marty, I promise. You'll understand everything tomorrow. He hung up. Martha stared at her phone. People who knew Danny? Danny had been in the army. He deployed to Afghanistan 3 times. He died on his 3rd deployment, killed by an IED outside Kandahar. What did that have to do with the Hells Angels? Martha didn't sleep that night. She sat in her camping chair, wrapped in a blanket, watching the stars wheel overhead. Her mind raced through every memory she had of Danny. He'd been a good kid. A little wild in high school, got into a few fights, skipped class sometimes, but nothing serious. He'd straightened out after graduation, got a job at the auto shop in town, started talking about the future. Then at 21, he'd enlisted. Martha remembered the day he told her. They were sitting on the porch of the old farmhouse, watching the sunset. I need to do something that matters, Mom. You matter right here. I know, but there's a whole world out there, people who need help. I can't just sit here and pretend that's not true. He'd shipped out 3 months later. For the next 4 years, Martha lived for his letters, his phone calls, the brief visits home between deployments. Then the officers came to her door. Martha had known before they spoke. She'd known the moment she saw the dress uniforms, the folded flag, the chaplain with his Bible. Mrs. Collins, we regret to inform you. She stopped listening after that. The funeral was a blur. The memorial service at the church, the 21-gun salute at the cemetery, the flag they pressed into her hands. On behalf of a grateful nation, Danny was gone. And now, 20 years later, a man named Iron was telling her there was more to the story. What more could there be? The sun rose on the 5th day. Martha was still in her chair, still wrapped in her blanket, still staring at the horizon. That's when she heard them. Motorcycles. Not a few, not dozens, hundreds. Martha stood up slowly, her joints aching from a night without sleep. The rumble grew louder, closer. The ground beneath her feet began to vibrate. She walked to what used to be her driveway and stopped breathing. The road was full of motorcycles. As far as she could see in both directions, black leather, chrome, the thunder of engines shaking the air. Iron was at the front. Behind him, a sea of riders stretched to the horizon. One by one, they pulled onto Martha's property. They parked in the fields, on the grass, anywhere they could find space. Martha counted. 50, 100, 200. They kept coming. Iron dismounted and walked toward her. His face was serious, almost reverent. Marty. How many? Martha whispered. 312, from 18 chapters across the country. Why? Iron stopped in front of her. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept either. Because we owe you a debt, and it's time to pay it. I don't understand. You will. He turned and whistled. 2 older bikers separated from the crowd and walked toward them. One was in his 60s, with a white beard and a limp. The other was younger, maybe 50, with a scar running down his left cheek. This is Preacher, Iron said, indicating the older man. And this is Duke. They served with Danny. Martha's legs went weak. Served with him? Preacher stepped forward. His eyes were kind but sad. In the club, ma'am, not in the army. Danny wasn't. He was. Preacher's voice was gentle. Danny joined us in 2001. Road name was Shepherd. He was one of the best men I ever knew. Martha shook her head. No, that's not possible. I would have known. He didn't want you to know, Duke said. He knew you wouldn't approve. He kept that part of his life separate. No, ma'am. No! Martha stumbled backward. Her chest was tight. She couldn't breathe. My son was a soldier, a hero. He didn't. Iron caught her before she fell. Easy, easy. Just breathe. Let go of me! She pushed him away. Her eyes were wild, scanning the hundreds of bikers surrounding her. This is a lie, some kind of sick joke. Danny would never. He did. Preacher's voice was firm, but not unkind. And he did it because he believed in what we stand for. Brotherhood, loyalty, protecting the people we love. I don't believe you. Preacher reached into his vest and pulled out a photograph. Look at this. Martha's hands were shaking as she took it. The photo showed a group of bikers standing in front of a row of motorcycles. In the center, grinning at the camera, was Danny. Her Danny. He was wearing a leather vest. On the back, clear as day, was the Hells Angels' death head. Martha's knees buckled. This time, she went all the way down. Iron and Preacher caught her, lowered her gently to the ground. Duke ran to get water. It's okay, Iron said. Take your time. How? Martha's voice was a whisper. How did I not know? Danny was careful, Preacher said, kneeling beside her. He loved you more than anything. He didn't want to disappoint you, so he kept the two parts of his life separate. But why? Why would he join a... She couldn't finish the sentence. Because we saved his life. Preacher sat down on the ground next to her, his old knees popping. Danny was in a bad place in 2000. Did he ever tell you about that year? Martha thought back. 2000. Danny had been 20. He'd been distant, withdrawn. She'd worried about him, but he'd brushed off her questions. He said he was fine. He wasn't. He was running with a bad crowd, got into debt with the wrong people. They were going to kill him, Marty, and they would have if we hadn't stepped in. You? A few of our brothers. They saw what was happening. They offered Danny a choice. Pay off his debt by working for the people who wanted to hurt him, or join us. Let us protect him. He chose you. He chose family. Preacher's eyes were distant. Danny didn't just join the club for protection. He joined because he finally found a place where he belonged. People who accepted him for who he was. Brothers who would die for him. Martha stared at the photograph in her hands. Danny looked happy, genuinely happy, the kind of happy she hadn't seen in him since before Robert died. Why are you telling me this now? She asked. Iron and Preacher exchanged a look. Because of what Danny did before he deployed the last time, Iron said. Martha looked up. What do you mean? Iron reached into his vest and pulled out a folded envelope. It was old, yellowed, water-stained. Danny knew he might not come home from that deployment, so he came to the chapter president, a man named Rooster, and made him swear something. Swear what? That if anything happened to him, the club would take care of you, protect you, make sure you never struggled alone. Martha's heart stopped. What? Danny made us promise, Preacher said. He wrote it all down, gave the letter to Rooster with instructions to deliver it to you if he didn't come back. I never got any letter. Because Rooster died. Iron's voice was heavy. 3 months after Danny. Accident on Highway 44. The letter got lost. We only found it last week when one of our archivists recognized your name from the news coverage. He held out the envelope. This belongs to you. Martha's hands were shaking so badly she could barely take it. The paper was fragile, threatening to fall apart at her touch. She opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper covered in Danny's handwriting. She would recognize it anywhere. The messy scrawl, the letters that leaned too far to the right. Mom, it read, if you're reading this, I didn't make it home. I need you to know something. Something I should have told you a long time ago. I'm a Hell's Angel. I know that probably shocks you. I know you've heard things about the club, bad things. Some of them are true, but not all of them. And the brothers I ride with are the best men I've ever known. They saved my life, Mom. When I was 20 and stupid and about to get myself killed, they stepped in. They gave me a family, a purpose, a reason to keep going. I joined the army because I wanted to protect people. I learned how to do that from my brothers. Here's the important part. I made them promise that if anything happens to me, they'll take care of you. I don't care if it's next year or 20 years from now. If you ever need help, they'll be there. You're not just my mother, Mom. You're their mother too. I love you. I've always loved you. I'm sorry I kept this secret. I was afraid you'd be disappointed in me. I hope you can forgive me. Take care of yourself. And let the boys take care of you too. That's all I've ever wanted. Your son, Danny P. S. Road name, Shepherd. Ask Preacher about it. He'll tell you the story. Martha read the letter 3 times. Then she collapsed against Iron's chest and sobbed. 20 years. 20 years of loneliness. 20 years of struggling alone. 20 years of thinking she had no one left. And all that time, Danny had tried to protect her. All that time, there had been a family waiting for her. If only she had known. Iron held her while she cried. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. Around them, 300 bikers stood in silence, watching. Some had tears in their own eyes. Some had their heads bowed. Preacher put his hand on Martha's shoulder. He loved you more than anything, he said quietly. Every time he came back from a run, the first thing he'd do was call you, make sure you were okay. He used to say you were the strongest woman he ever knew. Martha pulled back, wiping her eyes. Why, Shepherd? Preacher smiled. Because that's what he did. He protected people, the weak, the lost, the ones nobody else cared about. Danny would find them, and he'd take care of them, like a shepherd watching over his flock. Martha laughed through her tears. That sounds like him. He was one of the best men I ever knew, Duke said. Saved my life in Fallujah. Martha looked up sharply. You served together? A lot of us did. Army, Marines, Navy. The club has a lot of veterans. Danny was part of a whole group of us who enlisted around the same time. Duke's voice was thick. We looked out for each other over there, just like we looked out for each other here. He never told me he had friends in the service. He never told you a lot of things. Duke's tone wasn't accusatory, just sad. He was trying to protect you from worry. That's all he ever did, protect people. Martha looked down at the letter in her hands. I spent 20 years thinking I was alone. You were never alone, Iron said. We just didn't know where to find you. The records got lost after Rooster died. Different presidents, different priorities. Danny's promise got buried in archives nobody looked at. Until now. Until you saved 79 of my brothers from a tornado. Iron's eyes held hers. When the news coverage hit, one of our old-timers recognized your name. He dug through the archives and found the letter. Called me right away. Martha shook her head slowly. All because I opened my cellar. All because you opened your heart. Preacher put his hand over hers. Danny always said you were the most generous person he knew. Said you'd give the shirt off your back to a stranger. Looks like he was right. Martha looked around at the hundreds of bikers surrounding her. What happens now? Iron stood up and offered her his hand. Now we keep the promise. What does that mean? It means you're not sleeping in a tent anymore. Iron pulled her to her feet. It means you're not struggling alone. It means we're building you a new house, and we're going to take care of you the way Danny wanted. I can't ask you to. You're not asking. Iron's voice was firm. Danny asked, 20 years ago, and we're 20 years late, but we're here now. He turned to the crowd and raised his voice. Brothers, you know why we're here. You know what we owe this woman. Let's get to work. A cheer went up from 300 throats, and then they moved. Within minutes, the property was transformed into a construction site. Trucks appeared, loaded with lumber and concrete and tools. Generators roared to life. Men in leather vests picked up hammers and saws and got to work. Martha stood in the middle of it all, overwhelmed. Preacher appeared beside her with a cup of coffee. Drink this, it's going to be a long day. I don't understand what's happening. What's happening is family taking care of family. Preacher handed her the cup. Danny made us promise. We're keeping that promise. But there must be hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of, don't worry about the money. I have to worry about the money. I can't pay this back. Nobody's asking you to. Preacher guided her toward a lawn chair someone had set up. Sit, watch, let us work. Martha sat, she watched, and slowly the reality of what was happening began to sink in. Her son had been a Hell's Angel. Her son had made these men promise to protect her. Her son had loved her so much that he'd arranged for her care even from beyond the grave. And because she'd opened her cellar to 79 strangers 5 days ago, that promise was finally being kept. Martha clutched Danny's letter to her chest and cried again. But this time, they weren't tears of grief. They were tears of gratitude. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher. The air filled with the sounds of construction, hammering, sawing, men shouting instructions to each other. Martha lost track of time. People kept bringing her food, water, coffee. Different bikers stopped by to introduce themselves, to shake her hand, to tell her stories about Danny. Shepard saved my life in 2002. Bar fight gone bad. Took a knife that was meant for me. He used to help out at the veterans shelter every Thanksgiving. Never told anyone, just showed up and worked. Danny was the one who convinced me to get sober, said he believed in me when nobody else did. Story after story, memory after memory, a picture of her son she had never known. The Danny she remembered was good, kind, loyal. The Danny they described was all of that and more. He was a hero, not just in the army, not just in death, but in life, in the small moments, in the quiet acts of courage that nobody saw. Martha wished she had known. She wished he had trusted her enough to tell her, but she understood why he hadn't. She understood the fear of disappointing the people you love, the fear of being judged, the fear of losing the one person whose opinion mattered most. Danny had kept his secret to protect her, and in the end, it was that secret that brought her a new family. As the sun began to set, Iron found her sitting in the same lawn chair, staring at the construction happening around her. "We've got the foundation poured," he said. "Framing starts tomorrow." Martha shook her head in disbelief. "One day? You did all this in one day? 300 motivated men can do a lot." Iron sat down in the chair beside her. "How are you holding up?" "I don't know," Martha laughed weakly. "I keep thinking I'm going to wake up, that this is all some kind of dream." "It's not a dream." "I know," she looked at him. "Iron, Vincent, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything." "I do, though." Martha reached out and took his hand. "Thank you for finding the letter, for coming back, for all of this." Iron squeezed her hand. "Danny was a brother. That makes you family, and we take care of family. He never told me. All those years, all those visits home, and he never said a word. He was scared." "Of what? Of me?" "Of disappointing you." Iron's voice was quiet. "Danny used to talk about you all the time. Said you were the strongest woman he knew. Said he wanted to make you proud more than anything in the world." "He did make me proud. He always made me proud." "He didn't know that. He thought if you found out about the club, you'd see him differently, love him less." Martha's eyes filled with tears. "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." Iron laughed. "That's what I told him, but Danny was stubborn. Once he made up his mind about something, there was no changing it. He got that from his father. Must have." Iron was quiet for a moment. "Marty, there's something else I need to tell you." Martha's heart clenched. "What?" "The night before Danny shipped out for his last deployment, he came to see Rooster, gave him the letter, made him promise, but he also said something else." "What did he say?" Iron took a deep breath. "He said he had a feeling he wasn't coming back. Said something in his gut was telling him this was it. So he wanted to make sure everything was in order." Martha closed her eyes. "He knew. He suspected." Iron's voice was heavy. "Danny wasn't a mystical guy. He didn't believe in premonitions or any of that, but he trusted his instincts, and his instincts were telling him to prepare. So he wrote the letter. And he made Rooster swear on his life that the club would take care of you. Martha opened her eyes. And Rooster died before he could keep that promise. Yes. And the letter got lost. Yes. And I spent 20 years alone. Iron flinched. Yes. And I'm sorry, Marty. I'm sorry we failed. I'm sorry it took this long. I'm sorry. Stop. Martha held up her hand. Stop apologizing. But you didn't fail. Martha's voice was firm. You didn't know. Nobody knew. The letter was lost. Rooster was dead. How were you supposed to keep a promise you didn't know existed? We should have looked harder. Should have what? Read minds? Martha shook her head. What matters is you're here now. What matters is you found the letter. What matters is you came back. Iron stared at her. You're not angry? I'm sad. I'm sad that Danny felt he couldn't tell me the truth. I'm sad that I missed 20 years of having a family, but I'm not angry. Why not? Martha looked out at the construction site, at the 300 men who had shown up to keep her son's promise, at the foundation of the new home they were building for her. Because anger is a poison, she said quietly, and I've had enough poison in my life. Iron was silent for a long moment. Then he stood up. Get some rest, Marty. Tomorrow's going to be a big day. I don't think I can sleep. Try. You've been through a lot. He started to walk away. Iron, he turned. Thank you, Martha said, for telling me the truth about Danny, for showing me who he really was. Iron nodded slowly. He was the best of us, Marty, the absolute best. He walked away into the gathering darkness. Martha sat alone, clutching Danny's letter, watching the stars appear one by one. Her son had been a Hell's Angel. Her son had made a promise to protect her. Her son had loved her more than she ever knew. And tomorrow, 300 bikers would continue building her a new life. Martha closed her eyes, and for the first time in 5 days, she smiled. Martha woke to the sound of hammers. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. The tent ceiling above her was unfamiliar. The smell of sawdust and fresh coffee drifted through the air. Then she remembered. Danny. The letter. 300 bikers. She sat up too fast and her head spun. She hadn't eaten much yesterday. Too overwhelmed to think about food. Morning, Mom. Martha jumped. A young biker was standing outside her tent with a steaming cup of coffee and a plate of eggs. Sorry, didn't mean to scare you. He grinned. Iron said to make sure you eat something. Said you barely touched your food yesterday. Martha took the coffee gratefully. What time is it? Almost 7. Crews have been working since 5. 5 in the morning? We've got a lot to do. The young man set the plate down on a folding table someone had placed near her tent. I'm Tommy, by the way. You probably don't remember me from the cellar. Martha looked at him more closely. Young, brown hair, nervous energy. The panic attack, she said. You were the one having the panic attack. Tommy's face reddened. Yeah, that was me. I wanted to thank you for, talking me through it. You don't need to thank me. I do, though. I've had those attacks since I was a kid. Usually people just tell me to man up. You actually helped. Martha reached out and squeezed his hand. You're welcome, sweetheart. Tommy's eyes got wet. He blinked rapidly and looked away. Anyway, eat your breakfast. Iron wants to see you when you're ready. He walked off before Martha could respond. She ate the eggs. They were good, better than anything she'd cooked for herself in years. Then she drank the coffee, changed into clean clothes from the bag someone had brought her, and stepped out of the tent. The sight stopped her cold. The foundation from yesterday had transformed overnight. Framing was going up. Walls were taking shape. Dozens of men swarmed over the structure like ants, each one knowing exactly what to do. Impressive, isn't it? Martha turned. Preacher was standing behind her, leaning on a cane she hadn't noticed yesterday. "How is this possible?" she asked. "This would take a normal crew weeks." "We're not a normal crew," Preacher smiled. "We've got contractors, electricians, plumbers, carpenters, men who build houses for a living. When you put 300 skilled workers on one project, things move fast. But the cost, covered. By who?" Preacher just smiled again. "Don't worry about it." "I can't not worry about it. This is hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's being handled." Preacher put his hand on her shoulder. "Martha, the club has resources, and every chapter that's here contributed. This isn't charity. This is family taking care of family." Martha shook her head. "I still don't understand why." "Because of Danny. Because of what you did for our brothers in that cellar. Because it's the right thing to do." Preacher's eyes held hers. "Is that really so hard to believe?" Martha thought about it. In her experience, people didn't help each other for free. There was always an angle, always a catch. The world had taught her that lesson over and over again. But these men had come from 18 different states. They dropped everything to build a house for a woman they'd never met. Not because they wanted something from her, because her son had asked them to. Maybe the world wasn't as cold as she thought. "Come on," Preacher said. "Iron's waiting." He led her through the construction site, nodding at various workers as they passed. Everyone seemed to know him. Everyone seemed to respect him. "How long have you been in the club?" Martha asked. 43 years. 43 years? "Joined when I was 19. Dumb kid looking for trouble." Preacher chuckled. "Found a family instead." "Is that why they call you Preacher?" "No, they call me Preacher because I used to actually be one." Martha stopped walking. "You were a preacher?" "Seminary school and everything. Then I had a crisis of faith, dropped out, and ended up on a motorcycle." He shrugged. "Life takes strange turns." "Do you still believe? In God, I mean." Preacher was quiet for a moment. "I believe there's something out there," he said finally. "Something bigger than us. I've seen too many miracles to believe otherwise." "Miracles?" "Like a 67-year-old woman running into a tornado to save 79 bikers she'd never met." Preacher's eyes twinkled. "That feels pretty miraculous to me." They found Iron near what would become the front porch. He was studying blueprints with two other men, pointing at something and frowning. "Problem?" Preacher asked. "Nothing major, just working out the electrical layout." Iron rolled up the blueprints and turned to Martha. "Morning, how'd you sleep?" "Better than I expected." "Good, walk with me." He led her away from the construction, toward the edge of her property where the old barn had stood. Workers were clearing the debris, salvaging what they could. "I need to tell you something," Iron said when they were out of earshot. Martha's stomach tightened. "More secrets?" "One more, and this one's going to be hard to hear." "Just tell me." Iron stopped walking. He turned to face her, his blue eyes serious. "Danny didn't die in an IED attack." The world tilted. "What?" "The official story, the one the Army told you, it's not true." Martha grabbed his arm to steady herself. "What are you talking about?" "Danny was killed in a convoy ambush. That part is true. But it wasn't random. It was targeted." "Targeted? What does that mean?" "It means someone set him up." Iron's voice was hard. "Someone in his unit gave information to the enemy, told them exactly when and where Danny's convoy would be." Martha's legs gave out. Iron caught her, lowered her to a sitting position on a pile of lumber. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm sorry to dump this on you, but you deserve to know the truth." "Who?" Martha's voice was barely a whisper. "Who did it?" "We don't know. Not for certain. The Army investigated, but they never found enough evidence to charge anyone. Case went cold." "Someone murdered my son and got away with it?" "Yes." Martha stared at nothing. Her mind was spinning, trying to process what she was hearing. Danny hadn't died a random death. He'd been betrayed. Someone he trusted had sold him out to the enemy. "How do you know this?" she asked. "Duke. He was there that day, survived the ambush. He's the one who told us what really happened. He was there? He was 2 vehicles behind Danny, saw the whole thing. The ambush was too precise, too coordinated to be random. Someone had given them the route, the timing, everything. Martha pressed her hands against her face. Why didn't anyone tell me? Because the army covered it up. They didn't want the scandal, didn't want to admit that one of their own had committed treason. 20 years, Martha's voice cracked. For 20 years, I thought my son died serving his country. In this whole time, he did die serving his country. Iron crouched beside her. Whatever happened, Danny died a hero. He died trying to protect his brothers. That's what Duke said. When the shooting started, Danny didn't take cover. He ran toward the enemy to draw their fire away from the others. That sounds like him. It does. Iron put his hand on her shoulder. I'm sorry, Marty. I debated whether to tell you at all, but you asked for the truth. You deserve to know what happened to your son. Martha wiped her eyes. Do you have any suspects? Any idea who did it? Iron hesitated. Iron. There was a man in Danny's unit, a sergeant named Carl Whitmore. Duke always suspected him, said Whitmore and Danny had bad blood. Some kind of falling out a few months before the ambush. Where is he now? We don't know. He left the army 6 months after Danny died. Disappeared. Martha looked up. Find him. Marty, find him. Her voice was steel. If that man killed my son, I want to know. Iron studied her face for a long moment. This could get dangerous. Whitmore, if he's guilty, he won't want to be found. I don't care. I do. I'm not going to put you in harm's way for revenge. This isn't about revenge. Martha stood up, her legs steadier now. This is about truth. This is about justice. My son deserves that. I deserve that. Iron was quiet. Please, Martha said. I've spent 20 years in the dark. Help me find the light. Iron let out a long breath. I'll make some calls, see if anyone knows where Whitmore ended up. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This might lead nowhere, and if it does lead somewhere, you might not like what we find. I'll deal with that when it happens. Iron nodded slowly. You're tougher than you look, Marty Collins. I've had to be. They walked back to the construction site in silence. Martha's mind was churning. Danny had been betrayed. Someone had sold him out. And that person was still out there, living their life while her son rotted in the ground. The thought made her sick, but underneath the nausea, something else was stirring, something she hadn't felt in 20 years. Purpose. The day passed in a blur of activity. Martha tried to help with the construction, but the men wouldn't let her. Your job is to rest, Tommy told her. Our job is to build. I can't just sit here doing nothing. Then don't do nothing. Talk to people. Let them get to know you. So that's what she did. She moved through the construction site, meeting bikers from chapters she'd never heard of. Arizona, Texas, California, New York. Men who had ridden hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles to keep a promise to a brother they'd never forget. Each one had a story about Danny. Shepard talked me off a ledge once. Literally, I was going through a bad divorce, thinking about ending it all. He found me on an overpass at 3 a.m, sat with me until sunrise, never told a soul. Danny was the first one to welcome me into the club. I was just a prospect, scared as hell. He treated me like a brother from day one. Your son was the reason I got clean. He told me I was worth more than the needle. First person who ever believed that. Martha collected these stories like precious stones. Each one added another facet to the image of her son. Each one made her love him more and hate the man who killed him more. Around noon, a commotion near the road caught her attention. A pickup truck had pulled up. A woman was getting out, and she looked furious. What the hell is going on here? Martha recognized her. Linda Hartley, her neighbor from 3 miles down the road. They weren't friends exactly, but they'd known each other for decades. Iron stepped forward to intercept her. Ma'am, can I help you? You can tell me why there are 300 bikers tearing up the countryside. Linda's voice was shrill. I've got children at home. How am I supposed to feel safe with gangs running around? We're not running around, we're building a house. For who? Drug dealers? Martha stepped forward. For me, Linda. Linda's head snapped toward her. Her eyes widened. Martha, why are you? They're building me a new house, since the tornado destroyed mine. But these are, Linda sputtered, these are criminals. These are my son's brothers. Linda went pale. Danny was involved with these people? Danny was one of these people. He was a Hell's Angel, and he made them promise to take care of me. Martha, this doesn't make sense? No, it doesn't, but it's true. Martha stepped closer to her neighbor. These men have come from all over the country to help me. They've asked for nothing in return. The only thing they've done is work. But their reputation, I don't care about their reputation. I care about their actions, and their actions have been nothing but kind. Linda stood there, mouth opening and closing like a fish. Iron stepped up beside Martha. Ma'am, I understand your concern. If you want, I can give you my number. Anything happens, anything at all, you call me. But I promise you my men are here to help, not to cause trouble. Linda looked between Iron and Martha. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Martha's voice softened. Just give us a chance. That's all I'm asking. Linda stood there for another long moment. Then slowly, she nodded. Fine, but if anything happens, nothing will happen, Iron said. You have my word. Linda got back in her truck and drove away. Martha watched her go. That won't be the last of it, she said. The whole county's probably talking by now. Let them talk, Iron shrugged. We've dealt with worse. This is a small town. People here don't like outsiders. Then we'll show them what kind of outsiders we are. Iron looked at her. You worried? Martha thought about it. No, she said finally. I'm not. And she realized, with some surprise, that she meant it. The afternoon brought another visitor. This one Martha wasn't expecting. A sleek black car pulled up to the edge of the property. The door opened, and a man in a suit stepped out. He was in his 60s, silver-haired, with the kind of tan that came from golf courses and yacht clubs. He looked around at the construction with barely concealed disgust. Mrs. Collins? Martha stepped forward. That's me. I'm Gerald Patterson. I represent the Creek County Development Association. He extended a hand. Martha didn't take it. What can I do for you, Mr. Patterson? I wanted to speak with you about your property. Patterson lowered his hand, seemingly unaffected by the snub. As you may know, there's been significant interest in developing this area. The tornado damage has accelerated those plans. Developing how? Residential communities, shopping centers, the usual. Patterson smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Your 40 acres are in a prime location. We'd like to make you an offer. I'm not selling. You haven't heard the offer yet. I don't need to. This land belonged to my father. It belonged to my husband. My son is buried here. I'm not selling. Patterson's smile flickered. Mrs. Collins, I understand the sentimental attachment, but surely you can see that rebuilding on this property is impractical. You're 67 years old. You have no income, no family, and now you're associating with, he glanced at the bikers working on the house, criminal elements. Iron appeared at Martha's side. Problem here? Patterson took a small step back. No problem, just a business discussion. Doesn't look like much of a discussion to me. Iron's voice was casual, but his eyes were not. Looks like you're trying to pressure a vulnerable woman into selling her land. I'm offering her a fair deal. She said no. Perhaps she should reconsider. Perhaps you should leave. The two men stared at each other. Patterson was taller, better dressed, clearly used to getting his way, but something in Iron's stance made him take another step back. This isn't over, Patterson said. The development is happening whether she sells or not. She'll be surrounded by construction within a year. Her peaceful little farm will be worthless. Then she'll sell it for worthless money. Iron stepped forward. Now get off her property. Patterson held his ground for another second. Then he turned and walked back to his car. You'll regret this, he called over his shoulder. Both of you. The car sped away, kicking up dust. Martha let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Thank you. That guy's going to be trouble. Iron watched the car disappear down the road. Developers don't give up easy. I know Gerald Patterson. He's been trying to buy up land around here for years. The tornado probably seemed like a gift to him. Do you want to sell? No. Then you won't. It might not be that simple. Iron looked at her. Marty, you've got 300 brothers who will make sure it stays that simple. Patterson can threaten all he wants. He's not getting this land. Martha felt something warm spread through her chest. You mean that? I don't say things I don't mean. She believed him. That night, the construction paused. Someone had set up a massive grill, and the smell of cooking meat filled the air. Bikers gathered in the field beside the half-built house, sitting on coolers and folding chairs, passing around beers and stories. Martha sat in the middle of it all, overwhelmed by the noise and the laughter and the life. Mind if I sit? She looked up. Duke was standing there, holding 2 bottles of water. Please. He handed her one and settled into the chair beside her. How are you holding up? I don't know, Martha laughed weakly. Every time I think I've processed something, something new happens. Yeah, that's been a lot dumped on you in a few days. The thing Iron told me this morning, about Danny's death. Martha's voice dropped. Is it true? Duke was quiet for a long moment. Yes, you were there. I was there. Tell me what happened. Duke took a long drink of water. His hands were shaking slightly. We were running supplies from FOB Cobra to a village about 20 clicks north. Routine mission. Done it a dozen times. He paused. Danny was in the lead vehicle. I was in the third. We hit a choke point, narrow road, hills on both sides. Perfect ambush spot. And someone knew you'd be there. Someone knew exactly when we'd be there and exactly how many vehicles we'd have. Duke's jaw tightened. The first RPG hit Danny's Humvee dead center, blew the engine, vehicle caught fire. Martha's chest constricted. Danny got out. He was hurt, burned, I think, but he got out, and instead of taking cover, he grabbed his rifle and started moving toward the enemy positions. Why? Because they were focused on him. As long as they were shooting at Danny, they weren't shooting at the rest of us. Duke's voice broke. He drew their fire, gave us time to dismount and find cover, saved at least a dozen lives. Tears were streaming down Martha's face. How long? 4 minutes, maybe 5. Danny held them off for 4 or 5 minutes before Duke stopped, swallowed, before he went down. Did he suffer? No. Duke met her eyes. Headshot. He was gone instantly. Martha didn't know if that made it better or worse. The ambush was too perfect, Duke continued, too coordinated. Afterwards, I started asking questions, started digging. That's when I found out about the intel leak. Whitmore. I can't prove it, but yeah, Whitmore. Duke's hands clenched around his water bottle. Him and Danny had been fighting for weeks before the mission. Whitmore was into some bad stuff, selling equipment, skimming supplies. Danny found out, threatened to report him, and Whitmore sold him out. That's what I think happened. Duke looked away. I told the investigators. They said there wasn't enough evidence. Case closed. It's not closed. Martha's voice was hard. Not anymore. Duke looked at her. Iron told me you want to find Whitmore. I do. Why? Because my son deserves justice. Because 20 years is long enough. Because I'm tired of not knowing. Duke nodded slowly. I've been looking for him myself. Off and on, never could find him. Maybe with the club's help. Maybe. Duke finished his water and stood up. I hope you find him, Mrs. Collins. I hope you get the answers you deserve. Martha. What? Call me Martha. She looked up at him. You were with my son when he died. You tried to get him justice. That makes you family. Duke's eyes glistened. Thank you, Martha. He walked away into the crowd. Martha sat alone watching the fire, thinking about Danny running toward the enemy instead of away, thinking about the man who had betrayed him, thinking about justice. She would find Carl Whitmore. She would find out the truth. And then, finally, after 20 years, she would give her son peace. The stars wheeled overhead. The bikers laughed and talked around her. The half-built house loomed in the darkness, a promise of the future. Martha Collins had lost everything, her husband, her son, her home. But sitting here, surrounded by 300 strangers who had become family, she realized something. She had also gained everything: a new home, a new family, a new purpose, and the knowledge that her son, even in death, was still protecting her, still loving her, still watching over her, the way he always had, the way he always would. Around midnight, Iron found her still sitting by the dying fire. You should sleep. I can't. Thinking about Whitmore? Thinking about everything. Iron sat beside her. I made some calls. Martha's heart jumped. Already? We've got contacts in a lot of places. Took a few hours, but we found a trail. Iron pulled out his phone, scrolled through something. Carl Whitmore changed his name after leaving the Army. Now goes by Charles Wright. He's been living in Nevada for the past 15 years. Nevada? Henderson, just outside Vegas, works at an auto dealership. Iron looked at her. Married, 2 kids, regular suburban life. Martha's hands shook. He killed my son, and he's living a regular suburban life. Looks like it. That's not fair. No, it's not. Iron put his phone away. What do you want to do? Martha stared into the embers. I want to look him in the eye, she said quietly. I want to ask him why. I want to know if he feels any guilt at all for what he did. And then? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Iron was quiet for a moment. We could go. After the house is finished, a few of us could take you to Nevada, confront him. Would that be safe? We'd make it safe. Martha looked at him. Why are you doing this? All of this. It goes way beyond any promise Danny made. Iron didn't answer right away. Because I had a son once, he said finally. Lost him to an overdose 12 years ago. He was 19. Martha's heart ached. I'm sorry. After he died, I spent years wondering what I could have done differently, what I could have done to save him. Iron's voice was rough. I couldn't save my son, but I can help you find justice for yours. Iron, Vincent, he looked at her. My name is Vincent. Martha reached out and took his hand. Thank you, Vincent, for everything. He squeezed her hand once, then let go. Get some sleep, Marty. We've got a lot of work to do, and a trip to plan. He stood and walked away. Martha watched him go, then looked up at the stars. Danny was up there somewhere, she was sure of it, watching over her the way he always had. I'm going to find him, baby, she whispered. I'm going to find the man who killed you, and I'm going to make him answer for what he did. The stars twinkled silently, but Martha could have sworn she felt something warm brush against her cheek. Like a kiss, like a blessing, like a son saying goodbye. And for the first time in 20 years, she felt ready to face the truth, ready to find justice, ready to live again. Martha woke to the sound of hammers at 5 a.m. She crawled out of the tent, her body aching from sleeping on the ground, and stopped dead. The house had walls. How the hell? We work fast. Tommy appeared beside her with coffee. 300 guys, rotating shifts. Nobody sleeps much. Martha took the coffee but couldn't stop staring. Yesterday there had been a foundation. Today there was a structure. Tomorrow there might be a roof. Iron wants to see you, Tommy said. Says it's important. Everything's been important lately. This is different. Tommy's face was serious. He's got news. Martha found Iron behind the half-built house, talking into his phone. His face was grim. When he saw her, he ended the call. Walk with me. They walked toward the back of the property, away from the noise. Martha's heart pounded with each step. What is it? I found something last night about Danny. What kind of something? Iron stopped walking. He turned to face her, and Martha saw something in his eyes she hadn't seen before. Pain. The army lied to you. Martha's blood went cold. What? Danny didn't die in a random IED attack. He was set up, ambushed. Someone in his unit gave the enemy his convoy's route. The world tilted sideways. That's not possible. It's true. How do you know? Duke was there. He survived the ambush. He's been carrying this for 20 years. Martha grabbed Iron's arm. Her fingers dug in hard enough to leave bruises. My son was murdered? Yes. And the army covered it up? They didn't have enough evidence to prosecute, so they buried it. Martha's legs buckled. Iron caught her before she hit the ground. Breathe. Just breathe. Who? Martha's voice was a rasp. Who did it? A sergeant named Carl Whitmore. He and Danny had problems. Danny found out Whitmore was selling equipment to contractors, skimming money, threatened to report him. So Whitmore killed him. That's what Duke believes, what I believe. Martha pushed away from Iron. She walked 3 steps, stopped, walked 3 more. Her hands were shaking so badly she spilled coffee down her dress. 20 years, her voice cracked. I spent 20 years thinking my son died a hero's death. And this whole time, he was murdered by someone he trusted. He did die a hero. Iron's voice was firm. Duke told me what happened. When the ambush started, Danny's vehicle got hit first. He was hurt bad. But instead of taking cover, he grabbed his rifle and ran toward the enemy, drew their fire, gave the others time to escape. How long? 4 minutes, maybe 5. Danny held them off alone for almost 5 minutes. Martha closed her eyes. She could see it. Danny running toward the guns instead of away. Danny sacrificing himself so others could live. Danny being exactly who she'd raised him to be. That sounds like him, she whispered. Duke says Danny saved at least 12 lives that day, including his. Martha opened her eyes. Where is Whitmore now? I don't know yet. He left the army 6 months after Danny died, changed his name, disappeared. Find him. Marty, find him. Martha's voice was steel. I want to look him in the eye. I want to ask him why. I want him to know that Danny's mother knows what he did. Iron studied her face. This could be dangerous. I don't care. I do. I'm not going to put you in harm's way for revenge. It's not revenge. Martha stepped toward him. It's justice. My son deserves justice, even if it's 20 years too late. Iron was silent for a long moment. I'll make calls, see what I can find. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We might not find him. And if we do, you might not like what happens. I'll deal with that when it comes. Iron nodded slowly. You're tougher than you look, Marty Collins. I've had 67 years of practice. They walked back to the construction site in silence. Martha's mind was churning. Danny had been betrayed, murdered, and the man who did it was still out there somewhere, living his life like nothing happened. That wasn't right. That wasn't fair. And Martha was going to make it right. The morning passed in a blur. Martha tried to focus on the construction, but her mind kept drifting back to Whitmore. She imagined his face, even though she didn't know what he looked like. Imagine the confrontation. Imagine the satisfaction of watching fear dawn in his eyes when he realized he'd been found. Around noon, Preacher found her sitting alone. Iron told me, Martha nodded. How are you holding up? I don't know, Martha laughed bitterly. Every time I think I've processed one thing, something else comes along. Preacher sat beside her. I knew about the ambush, knew there were suspicions about Whitmore, but I didn't know the details until now. Why didn't anyone tell me before? Because we didn't know who you were. The connection to Danny was lost when Rooster died. We only found out 5 days ago. 5 days, Martha shook her head. 5 days ago, I was just an old woman waiting to die alone. Now I've got 300 brothers, a new house going up, and the truth about my son's murder. Life changes fast sometimes. Too fast. Preacher put his hand on her shoulder. Danny would be proud of you. Danny would be telling me to slow down, to not do anything stupid. Probably, Preacher smiled, but he'd also be proud. He always said you were the strongest person he knew. He told you that? All the time. Whenever things got hard, he'd say, "My mom survived worse than this." He used you as his measuring stick for toughness. Martha's eyes filled with tears. I miss him so much. I know. I thought I'd made peace with it. 20 years you'd think I'd have made peace. But now, finding out the truth. She wiped her eyes. It's like losing him all over again. The grief doesn't go away, Preacher said quietly. It just changes shape. Makes room for other things. Like anger. Like determination. Like the need for justice. Is that normal? It's human. Preacher squeezed her shoulder. Let yourself feel it, all of it. The grief, the anger, the hope. That's the only way through. A commotion near the road interrupted them. Martha looked up. A black pickup truck was pulling onto her property, driving too fast, kicking up dust. Who's that? Preacher's expression hardened. Trouble. The truck stopped. A man got out. He was big, late 50s. Gray hair buzzed military short. He wore jeans and a flannel shirt, but something about the way he carried himself screamed, soldier. He looked around at the construction, at the bikers, at the chaos. Then his eyes found Martha. Mrs. Collins? Martha stood up. That's me. The man walked toward her. His face was unreadable. My name is James Walker. I served with your son. Martha's heart jumped. You knew Danny? I was his commanding officer. Walker stopped a few feet away. I heard about what happened. The tornado, the bikers. I drove all night to get here. Why? Walker's jaw tightened. Because I owe you an apology. Iron appeared at Martha's side. Everything okay here? It's fine. Martha didn't take her eyes off Walker. What kind of apology? Walker looked at Iron, then back at Martha. Can we talk privately? No. Martha's voice was firm. Whatever you have to say, you can say in front of my family. Walker's eyebrow rose slightly at the word family, but he didn't argue. All right, he took a deep breath. I was in charge of the investigation after your son's death. The Army assigned me to look into the ambush, determine if there was a leak. Martha's pulse quickened. And? There was. We knew there was. The ambush was too precise to be coincidence. Walker's face darkened. I identified a suspect, Sergeant Carl Whitmore. He had motive, opportunity, and a history of disciplinary problems. But you didn't arrest him. I tried. Walker's hands clenched at his sides. I took my findings to command. They buried it. Said the evidence was circumstantial. Said prosecuting would damage unit morale. Said it was better to let Whitmore discharge quietly and let the whole thing fade away. They covered it up. They prioritized the institution over justice. Walker's voice was bitter. I fought them for 6 months, got nowhere. Eventually, they transferred me to a desk job in Germany, told me to drop it or lose my career. Martha stared at him. So you dropped it. I had a family, kids in school, 20 years in, 5 years from pension. Walker's eyes were haunted. I told myself I'd come back to it, find another way, but I never did. The years went by, and I let it go. Until now. Until I saw the news. Walker stepped closer. When I heard your name, heard about the tornado, heard about the Hells Angels, something clicked. I realized I'd been carrying this guilt for 20 years, and I'd never done a damn thing to make it right. What do you want from me? I want to help you find Whitmore. Martha's breath caught. You know where he is? I know where he was 3 years ago. I've been tracking him off and on. Never did anything about it, but I kept tabs. Walker pulled out his phone, scrolled through something. Carl Whitmore changed his name to Charles Wright. Last I knew, he was living in Henderson, Nevada, outside Las Vegas. Works at a car dealership. Iron tensed beside her. We found the same information. Walker looked at him. Then you know more than the Army ever wanted anyone to know. We have resources. So do I. Walker turned back to Martha. Mrs. Collins, I can't undo what happened. I can't bring your son back, but I can help you confront the man who killed him. I can testify to what I found. I can make sure the world knows the truth, even if the Army won't acknowledge it. Martha studied his face, looking for lies, looking for angles. All she saw was guilt and the desperate need to atone. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't. Walker's answer was immediate. I failed your son. I failed you. I don't deserve trust. He swallowed hard. But I'm here anyway, because it's the right thing to do, and because I've spent 20 years hating myself for not doing it sooner. Martha looked at Iron. What do you think? Iron's eyes were fixed on Walker, measuring, calculating. I think he's telling the truth. Doesn't mean he's not dangerous, but the truth? Yeah, that's real. Martha turned back to Walker. All right, you can help, but you follow my lead. This is about Danny, not about clearing your conscience. Understood. And if you betray me, if this is some kind of trick, my 300 brothers will find you, and they won't be as forgiving as I am. Walker glanced around at the bikers. Some had stopped working to watch the conversation. Their expressions were not friendly. I understand. Good, Martha extended her hand. Welcome to the family, Lieutenant Walker. He shook it. Just Walker now. Haven't been lieutenant for a long time. The afternoon brought more visitors. Word was spreading through the county about the bikers building a house for the old woman who'd saved them from the tornado. Some people came to gawk. Others came to help. A few came to complain. Martha handled them all. The gawkers got coffee and a wave. The helpers got assigned tasks. The complainers got an earful about minding their own business. One complainer was more persistent than the others. A silver Mercedes pulled up around 3 o'clock. A man in an expensive suit stepped out, looked around with obvious distaste, and walked toward Martha like he owned the place. Mrs. Collins? Speaking. I'm Gerald Patterson, Creek County Development Association. He didn't offer to shake hands. I'd like to discuss your property. There's nothing to discuss. I think there is. Patterson smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. The tornado has created some opportunities in this area. Properties like yours could be very valuable to the right developer. I'm not selling. You haven't heard my offer. Don't need to. This land belonged to my father. My husband is buried here. My son's memorial is here. It's not for sale. Patterson's smile thinned. Mrs. Collins, let me be frank. You're 67 years old. You have no income, no insurance, and you're currently associating with, he glanced at the bikers, questionable elements. How exactly do you plan to support yourself? Iron appeared behind Patterson. She's got family. Patterson turned. His face paled slightly when he saw the leather vest, the patches, the cold blue eyes. I wasn't talking to you. You are now. Iron stepped closer. The lady said she's not selling. That means the conversation is over. This is private business. This is harassment, and we don't take kindly to people harassing our mother. Patterson's jaw tightened. Your mother? That's right. Iron put his hand on Martha's shoulder. Martha Collins is under the protection of the Hells Angels. Every chapter, every state. You want to make her life difficult? You're making 300 men very angry. Are you threatening me? I'm educating you. Iron's voice dropped. Now get off this property before I stop being polite. Patterson stood his ground for another second. Then 2 more bikers appeared behind Iron. Then 3 more. Then 10. He retreated to his car. "This isn't over," he called. "I have resources too." "So do we." Iron didn't blink. "Drive safe, Mr. Patterson." The Mercedes peeled out, spraying gravel. Martha let out a breath. That man has been circling this property for years. The tornado probably seemed like a gift to him. "He'll be back." "I know." "We'll be ready." Martha looked at Iron, at the bikers who had gathered around her, at the house taking shape behind them. "Why do you care so much? About me, about this land. It goes beyond any promise Danny made." Iron was quiet for a moment. "Because when I was 19, my old man kicked me out, said I was worthless, said I'd never amount to anything." His jaw tightened. "The club took me in, gave me a family, a purpose, taught me that blood doesn't make family, loyalty does." Danny was loyal. Danny was the best of us. Iron's voice was rough. And his mother opened her cellar to 79 strangers in the middle of a tornado. Didn't ask who we were, didn't care about our patches, just saw people who needed help. He looked at her. "That's rare, Marty. In this world, that's rare as hell. And we don't let rare things slip away." Martha didn't have words. She just reached out and squeezed his hand. That night, they held a council. Iron, Preacher, Duke, Walker, and Martha sat around a fire pit someone had built from salvaged stones. The construction had stopped for the day, and the other bikers were scattered across the property, cooking dinner, playing cards, talking in low voices. "Here's what we know." Iron pulled out a notebook. "Charles Wright, formerly Carl Whitmore, lives in Henderson, Nevada, 2847 Desert Rose Lane. Works at Henderson Auto Group as a sales manager. Married, 2 kids, both teenagers. Typical suburban life." Duke's voice was bitter. "While Danny rots in the ground." "I made some calls today," Walker leaned forward. "I've still got contacts in the military community, guys who remember what happened. Some of them want justice as badly as we do." "What kind of contacts?" "A retired JAG officer who was blocked from pursuing the case. 2 sergeants from Danny's unit who always suspected Whitmore, and a journalist who's been looking into military cover-ups for years." Martha's heart beat faster. "A journalist?" "Her name is Rebecca Chen, works for the Washington Post. She's interested in the story, very interested. If we can get her solid evidence, she'll publish." "What kind of evidence?" "Whitmore's confession would be ideal. Short of that, testimony from witnesses, documents, anything that proves the cover-up." Iron shook his head. "Whitmore's not going to confess. Why would he?" "People confess for all kinds of reasons." Preacher's voice was calm. "Guilt, pride, fear. The right pressure in the right place can break anyone." "You want to pressure him?" "I want to confront him." Martha's voice cut through the conversation. "I want to look him in the eye and tell him I know what he did. I want to see if he has any humanity left, any remorse at all. And if he doesn't, then we go public anyway. The journalist publishes what we know. Whitmore spends the rest of his life with everyone knowing he's a traitor and a murderer. That's not exactly justice. It's better than nothing." Martha's eyes were hard. "It's better than letting him live out his days in peace while Danny's grave goes unvisited." The fire crackled. Sparks drifted up toward the stars. "There's another option." Duke spoke slowly, carefully. "I know people. People who could make sure Whitmore never hurts anyone again." The implication hung in the air. "No." Martha's answer was immediate. "I won't become a murderer to punish a murderer. That's not who Danny raised me to be." "Danny didn't raise you." "Yes, he did." Martha's voice softened. "In the last years of his life, Danny taught me more about courage and integrity than I taught him in his whole childhood. He believed in doing the right thing, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard." She looked around the circle. If we kill Whitmore, we become what we hate. Danny wouldn't want that. I don't want that. Iron nodded slowly. Then we do it the hard way. Confrontation, exposure, public accountability. When? Preacher asked. After the house is finished. Iron looked at Martha. Give us 2 more weeks. We finish the construction, make sure you're settled, then we take a trip to Nevada. 2 weeks. Can you wait that long? Martha thought about it. 20 years she'd waited, not knowing the truth. 2 more weeks, now that she knew. Yes, I can wait. Good, Iron stood up. Then let's get back to work. We've got a house to build and a traitor to catch. The council broke up. Bikers headed to their tents or their bikes. The fire burned down to embers. Martha sat alone, staring at the stars. 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, she would face the man who killed her son. In 2 weeks, she would demand answers. In 2 weeks, everything would change. She didn't know if she was ready. She didn't know if she'd ever be ready. But she was going to do it anyway. For Danny, for justice, for the mother she should have been all along. Around midnight, she felt someone sit beside her. Can't sleep? Preacher asked. Too much in my head. Understandable. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. The camp was quiet now, just the occasional cough or snore from the tents around them. Can I ask you something? Martha said. Anything. Do you think God forgives people like Whitmore? Preacher was quiet for a long moment. I think God forgives everyone who truly repents. But I also think true repentance is rare. Most people who do evil convince themselves it was justified, necessary, that they had no choice. Do you think Whitmore believes that? I think Whitmore probably sleeps fine at night. I think he's built a whole life on top of what he did, buried it so deep he might not even remember anymore. That makes it worse. Yes, it does. Martha hugged her knees to her chest. What if confronting him doesn't change anything? What if he doesn't care? What if he just shrugs it off? Then at least you'll know. Preacher's voice was gentle. Sometimes closure isn't about getting the other person to feel something. It's about saying what you need to say, letting go of what you've been carrying. I've been carrying this for 20 years, and you'll carry it for 20 more if you don't do something. The weight doesn't go away on its own. You have to set it down. Martha wiped her eyes. Thank you, Preacher. For what? For being here, for listening, for not telling me I'm crazy to want this. You're not crazy. Preacher put his arm around her shoulders. You're a mother, and mothers never stop fighting for their children, not even when their children are gone. Martha leaned into him. For the first time in days, she felt something other than grief and rage. She felt hope. 2 weeks later, the house was finished. Martha stood in the driveway, staring at something she never could have imagined. It was beautiful. A craftsman-style home with a wide porch, solar panels on the roof, a new barn behind it, stronger than the original. And on the front of the house, a hand-carved wooden plaque. The Hells Angels' death head surrounded by angel wings. Beneath it, here lives Martha Collins, mother of the Hells Angels. It's too much, Martha whispered. It's not enough. Iron stood beside her. It'll never be enough. Martha turned to look at him. I'm ready. I know. When do we leave? Iron checked his watch. 6 hours. We've got a long ride ahead of us. Martha looked back at the house. Her house. Built by 300 men who called her mother. Then she looked at the road stretching west toward Nevada, toward answers, toward Carl Whitmore, toward the truth she'd waited 20 years to find. Let's go, she said, and she didn't look back. The convoy left Oklahoma at dawn. 20 bikes. Martha rode behind Iron on his Harley, her arms wrapped around his waist, the wind tearing at her hair. Behind them came Duke, Preacher, Walker in his pickup truck, and 8 other brothers who had volunteered for the mission. They didn't talk much. There wasn't much to say. 16 hours to Henderson, Nevada. 16 hours to think about what was coming. 16 hours to prepare for a confrontation 20 years in the making. Martha spent the first few hours watching the landscape blur past. Oklahoma gave way to Texas. Texas gave way to New Mexico. The desert stretched out in every direction, empty and endless. She thought about Danny. She thought about the day he shipped out for his last deployment, the way he'd hugged her at the airport, holding on a little longer than usual, the way he'd said, "I love you, Mom. No matter what happens, remember that." At the time, she'd thought he was just being sentimental. Now she knew better. He'd known. Somehow he'd known he wasn't coming back. And he'd spent his last weeks making sure she'd be taken care of. They stopped for gas outside Albuquerque. Martha climbed off the bike, her legs stiff, her back aching. "You okay?" Iron asked. "I'm 67 years old, and I just rode 6 hours on a motorcycle. What do you think?" He almost smiled. "Fair point. I'm fine, just need to walk around a bit." She wandered toward the edge of the parking lot, stretching her legs, trying to quiet her mind. It wasn't working. Every mile they covered brought her closer to Whitmore, and the closer she got, the more her stomach churned. What would she say to him? What could she say? "Hey." Martha turned. Duke was standing behind her, holding 2 bottles of water. "Thought you might need this." "Thanks." She took the water but didn't drink. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure. When we get there, when I'm face to face with him." Martha's voice was steady, but her hands weren't. "What if I freeze? What if I can't say anything?" Duke was quiet for a moment. "You won't freeze." "How do you know?" "Because I've seen you under pressure. You saved 79 men during a tornado without breaking a sweat. You stood up to that developer without flinching. You've been handling everything that's been thrown at you with more grace than anyone I've ever met." "This is different." "Is it?" Martha looked at him. "This is the man who killed my son, and you're the woman who raised a hero." Duke stepped closer. "Danny was one of the bravest men I ever knew. That didn't come from nowhere. It came from you." Martha's eyes filled with tears. "I don't feel brave." "Bravery isn't about feeling, it's about doing." Duke put his hand on her shoulder. "When the moment comes, you'll know what to say. Trust yourself." Martha wiped her eyes. "Thank you, Duke. Thank me after, when this is over." They got back on the road. Arizona passed in a blur of heat and dust. Martha's mind kept circling back to the same questions. What if Whitmore denied everything? What if he laughed in her face? What if confronting him didn't change anything? Then a new thought crept in. What if he wasn't sorry? What if, after all these years, he felt nothing at all? That possibility scared her more than anything. They crossed into Nevada as the sun was setting. The desert turned orange, then red, then purple. Las Vegas glittered in the distance like a fever dream. "We'll stop here for the night," Iron said when they pulled into a motel outside Henderson. "Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be long." Martha didn't argue. She was exhausted, physically and emotionally. The motel room was small and generic, but the bed was soft and the shower was hot. She lay awake for hours anyway. Around midnight, there was a knock at her door. Martha got up, checked the peephole. "Preacher." She opened the door. "Can't sleep either?" he asked. "Not even close. Mind if I come in?" She stepped aside. Preacher entered, sat in the worn armchair by the window. "I've been thinking about tomorrow," he said, "about what might happen. Join the club. There's something I need to tell you, something I probably should have said earlier." Martha's stomach tightened. "What?" Preacher was quiet for a moment. "I knew Danny was going to die." The words hit Martha like a physical blow. "What?" "Not like a premonition, nothing mystical." Preacher's voice was heavy. "The night before he shipped out, Danny came to see me. We sat up all night talking, drinking. He told me he had a bad feeling about this deployment, said something didn't feel right. He told Iron the same thing. He told a lot of people." Preacher leaned forward. "But he told me something else, Something he made me promise to keep secret. Martha's heart was pounding. What? Danny knew about Whitmore. He knew Whitmore was dirty, and he was planning to report him when he got back. He told you this? He told me everything. The stolen equipment, the skimmed money, the connections to contractors who were making millions off the war. Preacher's jaw tightened. Danny had evidence, documents. He was going to bring down Whitmore's whole operation. Martha's mind was racing. So Whitmore found out, and he had Danny killed before he could talk. That's what I believe. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because I wasn't sure. Because I didn't have proof. Because, Preacher's voice broke. Because I was ashamed. Ashamed of what? Danny asked me to hold on to the evidence, copies of everything he'd collected. He gave me a flash drive the night before he left. Preacher's hands were shaking. I was supposed to give it to the army if anything happened to him. Martha went cold. You have evidence? I had evidence. Preacher couldn't meet her eyes. After Danny died, I panicked. I was scared. Whitmore had killed a man to protect his secrets. What would he do to me if he found out I had proof? What did you do? I hid it, buried it in a lockbox on my property, told myself I'd come back for it when things calmed down. Preacher's voice was barely audible. But things never calmed down, and the longer I waited, the harder it got. Eventually, I just tried to forget. Martha stared at him. You've had evidence of my son's murder for 20 years, and you did nothing. Yes. You could have brought Whitmore to justice. You could have given Danny's death meaning. Yes. And you let a murderer walk free. Preacher finally looked at her. His eyes were wet. Yes, and I've hated myself every day since. Martha wanted to scream. She wanted to hit him. She wanted to throw him out of the room and never see his face again. But she didn't, because she saw something in his eyes that stopped her. Not just guilt, not just shame, grief. Preacher had loved Danny too. He'd carried this weight for 20 years, just like she had. They were both victims of Whitmore's crime. Where is it now? Martha asked. The evidence. Still buried on my property in Oklahoma. Can you get it? I can have someone dig it up, have it here by tomorrow night. Martha's mind was calculating. The flash drive changed everything. With solid evidence, they could do more than confront Whitmore. They could destroy him. Do it, she said. Call whoever you need to call. Get that flash drive. Preacher pulled out his phone immediately. His hands were still shaking as he dialed. Tiny, it's Preacher. I need you to do something for me. Martha sat on the edge of the bed, listening to him give instructions. Coordinates to his property. Where to dig. How deep. When he hung up, she looked at him. If that evidence is real, if it proves what Whitmore did, we can take him down. For real, not just confront him. Destroy him. I know. Why are you giving it up now, after all these years? Preacher was quiet for a long moment. Because of you, he said finally. Because when I look at you, I see Danny's eyes. I see his strength. I see his determination. He swallowed hard. I've been a coward for 20 years. It's time to stop. Martha reached out and took his hand. Danny would forgive you. I don't know if I can forgive myself. Then don't. Use the guilt. Let it fuel you. Martha's voice hardened. Tomorrow we're going to make Whitmore pay. Not with violence, with truth. And you're going to help me do it. Preacher nodded slowly. Whatever you need. I need you to be there, by my side, when I face him. I'll be there. And Preacher? Yeah? Thank you for telling me, for finally doing the right thing. Preacher's eyes filled with tears again. It's about damn time. He left. Martha sat alone in the dark room, her mind spinning. Evidence, real evidence. The flash drive could prove everything. Whitmore's crimes, the cover-up, Danny's murder. Tomorrow was going to be different than she'd planned. Tomorrow was going to be better. She finally slept. Morning came too fast. Martha woke to sunlight streaming through the cheap curtains and iron knocking on her door. Breakfast in 20, then we move. She showered, dressed, and met the others in the motel parking lot. The tension was palpable. Everyone knew what was coming. Change of plans, Martha said. She told them about Preacher's confession, about the evidence. Iron's expression darkened. You had proof this whole time? I was scared. Preacher's voice was steady now, resigned. I'm not anymore. When does it get here? Tonight. Tiny's driving it out personally. Iron nodded slowly. Then we wait. Confront Whitmore after we have the flash drive. No. Martha's voice was firm. We confront him now. Let him think he's safe. Let him think this is just an angry mother looking for closure. Then, when we have the evidence, we hit him with everything. That's risky. It's strategic. Martha met Iron's eyes. Whitmore's a survivor. If he thinks we have nothing, he'll be arrogant, careless. He might even slip up, say something incriminating. And if he doesn't, then we still have the flash drive. Either way, he's finished. Iron considered this. All right, we do it your way. He turned to the others. Everyone stays sharp. We go in calm. We stay calm. No matter what he says or does. What about me? Walker asked. You stay back. If Whitmore recognizes you, it could complicate things. Walker nodded. I'll be nearby, in case you need backup. Let's move. The drive to Whitmore's house took 20 minutes. Henderson was exactly what Martha expected. Suburban, quiet, cookie-cutter houses with manicured lawns and two-car garages. The kind of neighborhood where nothing bad ever happened, except a murderer lived there. 2847 Desert Rose Lane. They parked at the end of the block. Iron, Preacher, Duke, and Martha walked toward the house. The others stayed with the bikes, watching. Martha's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. This was it. 20 years of grief. 20 years of questions. 20 years of not knowing. It all came down to this moment. Iron rang the doorbell. Footsteps inside. The door opened, and Martha found herself face to face with the man who killed her son. Carl Whitmore, Charles Wright, was smaller than she expected. Average height, thinning gray hair, the kind of forgettable face you'd pass on the street without a second glance. He was wearing khakis and a polo shirt, a coffee mug in his hand, the picture of suburban normalcy. Can I help you? His voice was pleasant, polite, not a trace of guilt or recognition. Carl Whitmore? Martha asked. Something flickered in his eyes, just for a second. I'm sorry, you must have the wrong house. My name is Charles Wright. Your name is Carl Whitmore. You served in the United States Army from 1998 to 2005. You were stationed at FOB Cobra in Afghanistan from 2003 to 2004. Whitmore's face went pale. Who are you? My name is Martha Collins. Martha's voice didn't waver. My son was Danny Collins, Sergeant Daniel Collins, road name Shepherd. You killed him. The coffee mug slipped from Whitmore's hand. It shattered on the doorstep, brown liquid splashing across the concrete. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Martha stepped closer. Danny found out you were stealing, selling equipment, skimming money. He was going to report you. This is insane. So you gave his convoy route to the enemy. You set up an ambush. You murdered my son to protect your secrets. Get off my property. Is everything okay, honey? A woman appeared behind Whitmore, blonde, mid-40s, worried expression. Everything's fine, Sarah. Go back inside. Who are these people? I said go inside. The woman flinched at his tone. She retreated into the house, but Martha could see her hovering in the hallway, watching. Whitmore turned back to them. His face was no longer pleasant. You need to leave. Now. We're not going anywhere. Iron stepped up beside Martha. Not until you answer her questions. I don't have to answer anything. You're trespassing. Then call the cops. Martha's voice was ice. Tell them Carl Whitmore is being harassed by the mother of a soldier he betrayed. I'm sure they'd love to hear that story. Whitmore's jaw tightened. You can't prove anything. Can't I? It's been 20 years. Whatever you think you know, it's ancient history. Nobody cares anymore. I care. Martha stepped closer until she was inches from his face. I've cared every single day for 20 years. Every morning I wake up and remember my son is dead. Every night I go to sleep wondering why. I had nothing to do with it. Liar. I'm not. Liar. Martha's voice echoed down the quiet suburban street. Neighbors were starting to appear on their porches, watching. Whitmore glanced around nervously. Keep your voice down. Why? Afraid your neighbors might hear? Afraid your wife might find out what kind of man she married? You don't know anything about me. I know you're a coward. I know you're a traitor. I know you sold out your brothers for money. Martha's voice dropped to a whisper. I know you're going to spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder, wondering when the truth is going to catch up with you. Whitmore's eyes darted to the bikers watching from the street. Is this a threat? Are you threatening me? I'm promising you. Martha didn't blink. The truth always comes out. Always. And when it does, everyone you love is going to know exactly who you are. Whitmore's face twisted. Your son was a troublemaker, always sticking his nose where it didn't belong, always playing hero. He thought he was better than everyone else. Martha's blood went cold. What did you say? You heard me. Whitmore's voice was ugly now, venomous. Danny Collins was a self-righteous little prick who couldn't mind his own business. Whatever happened to him, he brought it on himself. Duke lunged forward. Iron caught him, held him back. Easy, easy. Let me go. Not here, not like this. Martha hadn't moved. She was staring at Whitmore with an expression that would have made anyone with sense run. You just admitted it. Whitmore blinked. I didn't admit anything. You said whatever happened to him. You know what happened. You know because you made it happen. I didn't say that. I have witnesses. Martha gestured at the bikers around her. 4 of them, all willing to testify to what you just said. Whitmore's face went gray. That won't hold up. It's not a confession. Maybe not in court, but in the court of public opinion? Martha smiled, and it was terrible. When the story breaks, and it will break, people are going to remember what you said just now. They're going to remember the hatred in your voice when you talked about my son. What story? There's no story. There will be. The Washington Post is very interested in military cover-ups. Martha watched the color drain from his face. A journalist named Rebecca Chen has been investigating cases like yours for years. She's going to love this one. You're bluffing. Am I? Whitmore's hands were shaking now. You can't prove anything. The Army investigated. They found nothing. The Army covered it up. We both know that. Martha stepped back. But new evidence has a way of surfacing, especially when people start talking. And people are going to talk, Carl. They're going to talk because I'm going to make sure everyone knows your name. What do you want? The question came out desperate, pleading. Martha stared at him. I want my son back, but since I can't have that, I'll settle for justice. I can pay you, whatever you want. I don't want your money. Then what? What do you want? Martha was quiet for a long moment. I want you to admit it, right here, right now. Tell me what you did. Whitmore's mouth opened and closed. I can't. You can. My family should have thought about that before you murdered my son. I didn't murder anyone. Then explain what happened. Martha's voice rose. Explain how the enemy knew exactly when and where Danny's convoy would be. Explain how an ambush was set up with perfect precision. Explain how you walked away from that war with money in your pocket while better men came home in boxes. Whitmore was sweating now. His eyes were wild. You don't understand. The things I did, I had to do them. The war was insane. Everyone was getting rich except the guys actually fighting. I just wanted my share. And Danny got in the way. Danny was going to ruin everything. The words exploded out of Whitmore. He had documents, recordings, proof of things that could have sent me to prison for life. I tried to reason with him, tried to cut him in. He wouldn't listen. So you had him killed. Whitmore's face crumpled. I didn't. I never meant for... Say it. Martha's voice was stone. Say what you did. I gave them the route. Whitmore's voice was barely a whisper. I told them when the convoy would be there. I thought they'd just capture him, ransom him, buy me time to cover my tracks. But they didn't capture him. No, they killed him. Yes, you killed my son. Whitmore fell to his knees, right there on his doorstep, in front of his neighbors, in front of his wife who had reappeared in the doorway with her hand over her mouth. I'm sorry, he sobbed. I'm so sorry. I never meant for him to die. I never wanted that. Martha looked down at him. 20 years of grief, 20 years of anger, 20 years of wanting to know why, and now she knew. It wasn't noble. It wasn't complicated. It wasn't even about ideology or betrayal or any of the grand things she'd imagined. It was just greed. Simple, petty, pathetic greed. Carl? Sarah's voice was trembling. Carl, what is she talking about? What did you do? Whitmore didn't answer. He just knelt there sobbing, his perfect suburban life crumbling around him. Martha turned away. We're done here. That's it? Duke looked incredulous. After everything he did, we just walk away? He confessed. His wife heard. His neighbors heard. Martha looked back at Whitmore one last time. And when the evidence arrives tonight, Rebecca Chen is going to have everything she needs to blow this wide open. What about justice? This is justice. Martha's voice was tired. Not the kind with handcuffs in courtrooms. The real kind. The kind where everyone knows what you did. The kind where you have to live with the consequences. She walked toward the bikes. Behind her, she could hear Sarah screaming at Whitmore, demanding answers, demanding the truth. The neighbors were gathering now. Phones were out. Videos being recorded. By tonight, this would be all over the internet. By tomorrow, Whitmore's life would be over. Martha climbed onto Iron's bike. Let's go. They rode away from Desert Rose Lane, away from Carl Whitmore's shattered world, away from 20 years of questions that finally had answers. Martha held onto Iron and let the wind dry her tears. She thought she would feel triumph, victory, satisfaction. Instead, she just felt empty. Danny was still dead. Nothing could change that. But at least now the world would know why. They met Tiny at the motel that night. He was a massive man, 6'6" and 300 pounds, with hands like dinner plates and a gentle voice that didn't match his size. Got it right here. He held up a dusty lockbox. Had to dig 3 feet down, but it was right where Preacher said. Martha took the box. Her hands were trembling as she opened it. Inside was a flash drive, small, unassuming, 20 years old. Does it still work? Iron asked. Only one way to find out. Walker had brought a laptop. They gathered around as Martha plugged in the drive. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then the files appeared. Documents, audio recordings, photographs, bank statements, emails. Everything Danny had collected. Everything they needed. Holy shit, Walker breathed. This is everything. Names, dates, amounts. He documented the entire operation. Danny was thorough, Preacher said quietly. Thorough doesn't cover it. This could bring down a dozen people. Whitmore was just the tip of the iceberg. Martha scrolled through the files, tears streaming down her face. Her son had been a hero, not just in the way he died, in the way he lived. Danny had seen evil and refused to ignore it. He'd risked everything to do the right thing. And even though that courage had cost him his life, His work had survived. Rebecca Chen is going to have a field day with this, Iron said. When can we get it to her? I'll call her now. She can be here by morning. Martha nodded. Do it. While Iron made the call, Martha stepped outside. The Nevada night was cold and clear. Stars stretched overhead in a vast canopy. She thought about Danny. She thought about all the things she wished she'd said. I'm proud of you, baby, she whispered to the sky. I'm so proud of you. The stars didn't answer, but somewhere in her heart, Martha felt warmth, like a hand on her shoulder, like a son saying goodbye. Rebecca Chen arrived at dawn. She was younger than Martha expected, mid-30s, sharp eyes, the kind of intensity that made you believe she'd walk through fire for a story. She reviewed the evidence in silence. When she finished, she looked up at Martha. This is real. Yes, this is going to destroy careers, maybe bring criminal charges. Good. Are you sure you want to do this? Once this story breaks, your life is going to change. Media attention, interview requests, maybe even threats from people who don't want this coming out. Martha thought about the past few weeks. The tornado, the bikers, the truth about Danny. Her life had already changed. I'm sure. Rebecca nodded. Then let's do it. She left with the flash drive, promising to be in touch. Martha watched her car disappear down the highway. It was over. Not the grief, that would never fully end, but the mission, the search for truth, the quest for justice. That was complete. Iron appeared beside her. How do you feel? Martha considered the question. Empty, she said finally, but also free, like I've been carrying something heavy for 20 years, and I finally set it down. That's how it should feel. Is it? Closure isn't about feeling good. It's about feeling finished. Iron put his arm around her shoulders. You did something incredible, Marty. You honored your son. You found the truth. You made sure the world will know what happened. Danny did the hard part. He collected the evidence. He was willing to die for it. And you were willing to fight for it. 20 years later, against all odds. Iron squeezed her shoulder. He'd be proud of you. Martha leaned into him. Thank you, Vincent, for everything. We're family. That's what family does. They stood there in the Nevada dawn, watching the sunrise. Behind them, the bikers were packing up, getting ready to head back to Oklahoma. Back to the new house. Back to the new life. Martha took a deep breath of desert air. For the first time in 20 years, she felt like she could breathe. Really breathe. The weight was gone. The questions were answered. The truth was coming. And Danny's spirit could finally rest. The ride back to Oklahoma took 2 days. Martha didn't mind the extra time. She needed it. Needed the wind in her face and the road beneath her to process everything that had happened. Whitmore's confession, the evidence, the journalist who would soon tell the world what really happened to her son. It was over. And yet, somehow, it was just beginning. They rolled into Cedar Falls at sunset on the third day. Martha's new house stood waiting for her, solid and beautiful against the orange sky. The porch light was on. Someone had planted flowers along the walkway. Welcome home, Iron said. Martha climbed off the bike and stood there staring. Home. She hadn't had a real home in 22 years. The old farmhouse had been a place to exist, nothing more. 4 walls and a roof to keep out the weather. This was different. This was built with love. Go on, Iron nudged her forward. We'll unpack. You go inside. Martha walked up the porch steps, her hand trailing along the smooth wooden railing. She pushed open the front door and stopped. The house was full of people. Tommy was there, Derek, his arm still in a cast, Preacher, Duke, Walker, and dozens of others she'd met over the past few weeks. They were holding balloons, streamers, a banner that read, "Welcome home, Mom." Surprise! Martha burst into tears. Tommy rushed forward to hug her, then Derek, then Preacher. One by one, they surrounded her, wrapped her in warmth and love and family. "You didn't have to do this," she managed. "We wanted to," Tommy grinned. "Besides, we couldn't let you come home to an empty house." "It wouldn't have been empty. You know what I mean." Martha laughed through her tears. "I do. Thank you. All of you." The party lasted until midnight. Someone had brought a grill. Someone else had brought cases of beer. Music played from a portable speaker, and the yard filled with laughter and conversation. Martha moved through the crowd, talking to everyone, hugging people she barely knew but who somehow felt like family. This was her life now, this impossible, beautiful, unexpected life. Around 11, her phone buzzed. Rebecca Chen. Martha stepped away from the noise to answer. "Mrs. Collins, I wanted to let you know the story is ready. We're publishing tomorrow morning." Martha's heart jumped. "Tomorrow?" "Front page, above the fold. This is going to be big." "How big?" "Network news big. Congressional inquiry big." Rebecca paused. "Are you ready for that?" Martha looked back at the party, at the bikers laughing and talking and living, at the house they'd built for her, at the family they'd become. "Yes," she said, "I'm ready." "Good. I'll send you a link when it goes live." "And Mrs. Collins?" "Yes. Thank you for trusting me with this story, for trusting me with Danny's legacy." Martha's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you for telling it." She hung up. Tomorrow the world would know. Tomorrow everything would change. But tonight she had a party to enjoy. The story broke at 6 a.m. Martha was already awake, sitting on her new porch with a cup of coffee when Rebecca's link arrived. Military cover-up, soldier betrayed by fellow sergeant, death disguised as combat casualty. She read the article 3 times. Rebecca had done incredible work. Every detail was there. Danny's discovery of Whitmore's corruption, his plan to report it, the ambush, the cover-up, the 20 years of silence. And Danny was the hero of the story, his courage, his integrity, his sacrifice. Martha cried so hard she couldn't see the screen. Iron found her like that, tears streaming down her face, phone clutched in her shaking hands. "It's good?" he asked. "It's perfect." He sat beside her and read the article himself. When he finished, his jaw was tight. She did right by him. She did. "How are you feeling?" Martha thought about it. Proud, sad, relieved. She wiped her eyes. Everything at once. That's normal. Is any of this normal? Iron almost smiled. Probably not. The calls started coming around 7. News stations wanting interviews, newspapers wanting quotes, podcasters wanting exclusive access. Martha's phone rang so much she finally turned it off. "Let Rebecca handle the media," Iron advised. "She knows what she's doing." "I don't want to hide." "You're not hiding. You're protecting yourself." He took the phone from her hand. "The story is out there. Danny's name is cleared. That's what matters. Everything else is noise." Martha wanted to argue, but she was too tired. "Okay, get some rest. Today is going to be long." He was right. By noon, the story had gone viral. Twitter was exploding. Facebook was on fire. Danny's face was everywhere. The photo from his army days, the one where he was smiling in his uniform. Martha's son, America's son. Network news picked it up by 2 o'clock. Martha watched from her living room as anchors discussed the case, the cover-up, the 20 years of injustice. "This is the face of military corruption," one anchor said. "Sergeant Daniel Collins died a hero, and the Army buried the truth to protect a criminal." "There are already calls for a congressional investigation," another added. "Several senators have demanded a full review of the case." Martha turned off the TV. She couldn't watch anymore. At 3 o'clock, there was a knock at her door. Martha opened it to find a man in a suit standing on her porch. He was in his 50s, silver-haired, with the bearing of someone used to giving orders. "Mrs. Collins?" "That's me." My name is Senator James Mitchell. I chair the Armed Services Committee. He extended his hand. May I come in? Martha shook his hand numbly. Of course. They sat in her living room. The senator looked uncomfortable, like he wasn't used to being in small-town houses with homemade furniture. I'll get right to the point, he said. The story that broke this morning has caused quite a stir in Washington. A lot of people are very unhappy. Good. Mitchell blinked. Excuse me? I said good. They should be unhappy. My son was murdered, and the army covered it up. If that makes people in Washington uncomfortable, I don't really care. The senator stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed. Fair enough. He leaned forward. Mrs. Collins, I didn't come here to defend what happened. I came here to tell you that I'm personally committed to making this right. How? Full congressional investigation. Subpoena power. Everyone involved in the cover-up will be called to testify under oath. Mitchell's expression hardened. And I'm pushing for criminal charges against Whitmore. What he did wasn't just treason, it was murder. Martha's breath caught. Criminal charges? The evidence you provided is overwhelming. Combined with Whitmore's confession, which I understand was captured on video by several witnesses, we have more than enough for an indictment. He's going to prison? If I have anything to say about it, Mitchell stood. Mrs. Collins, I know nothing can bring your son back. But I promise you this, his death will not be forgotten. His sacrifice will not be in vain. Martha stood too, her legs unsteady. Thank you, Senator. Don't thank me yet. This is going to be a fight. Whitmore has friends. The people who helped cover this up have power. They're not going to go down without a battle. Neither am I, Mitchell smiled. I can see that. He shook her hand again. You'll be hearing from my office. We may need you to testify when the investigation begins. I'll be there. I don't doubt it. He left. Martha sat back down, her mind reeling. Criminal charges, congressional investigation, justice, real justice for Danny. She had hoped for this, prayed for it, but she never truly believed it would happen. Iron appeared in the doorway. Who was that? Senator Mitchell. He chairs the Armed Services Committee. What did he want? Martha looked up at him. He wants to put Whitmore in prison. Iron's eyes widened. Seriously? He said they have enough for an indictment. The evidence, the confession, everything. Holy shit. That's what I said, Martha laughed weakly. Well, I thought it. I didn't actually say it. Iron sat beside her. This is huge, Marty. This is everything you wanted. I know, I can't quite believe it. Believe it, Iron took her hand. You did this. You made this happen. We did this, all of us. You led, we followed. His grip tightened. Danny would be so damn proud of you. Martha's eyes filled with tears. I hope so. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. The congressional investigation launched. Subpoenas went out. People started talking. People who had been silent for 20 years, afraid of repercussions. Not anymore. The cover-up unraveled faster than anyone expected. Officers who had buried the evidence came forward. Bureaucrats who had falsified reports confessed. The rot went deeper than anyone had imagined, all the way up to a 2-star general who had personally ordered the case closed. Whitmore was arrested on a Tuesday morning. Martha watched the footage on TV, federal agents leading him out of his house in handcuffs, his wife crying on the porch, his neighbors watching in shock. She felt nothing. She had expected satisfaction, triumph, vindication. Instead, she just felt tired. It's over, she said to no one. But it wasn't. Not quite. Iron came to her that evening with news. The club wants to do something. For you. For Danny. What kind of something? A ceremony to honor Danny's memory and to make official what we've all been feeling. Iron's expression was serious. We want to give you the patch. Martha's heart stopped. What patch? The mother patch. Iron reached into his vest and pulled out a small piece of leather. It showed the Hells Angels' death head with a golden border. Beneath it was stitched a single word, Mother. This has never been given to an outsider, Iron said. Not once in the history of the club. But the presidents from every chapter that came to help you, they voted. Unanimous. You're not just Danny's mother anymore, Marty. You're our mother. All of us. Martha couldn't speak. You don't have to accept it. There's no pressure. But we wanted you to know. Yes. Iron stopped. Yes? Yes, I accept. I'm honored. I don't have words for how honored. Iron's face broke into a rare smile. Then it's settled. Saturday night, right here on your property. Every brother who can make it will be there. How many is that? We're expecting around 400, Martha laughed. 400? Too many? I'm going to need more coffee. Saturday came faster than Martha was ready for. By late afternoon, motorcycles were streaming onto her property from every direction. They parked in the fields, along the road, anywhere they could find space. The rumble of engines was constant, a deep thrumming heartbeat that Martha felt in her bones. 400 became 500. 500 became 600. How many people are out there? Martha asked Iron as she watched from her porch. Last count? About 650. Where did they all come from? Everywhere. When word got out about the ceremony, brothers started riding in from all over the country. Some came from as far as Maine, Florida, Washington State. For me, for you, for Danny, for what you represent. Martha shook her head in disbelief. I'm just a farmer's daughter from Oklahoma. You're a lot more than that. Iron put his hand on her shoulder. You're the woman who ran toward a tornado to save 79 strangers. You're the woman who spent 20 years searching for justice. You're the woman who refused to give up, no matter how hard things got. You make me sound like a hero. You are a hero. Iron's voice was firm. Danny's hero, our hero, and tonight we're going to make sure everyone knows it. The ceremony began at sunset. 600 bikers gathered in the field behind Martha's house, their torches lighting the growing darkness. Martha stood on a small platform someone had built, facing the crowd. Iron stood beside her. Preacher, Duke, Walker, Tommy, Derek, all the people who had become family over the past weeks. Iron raised his hand and the crowd fell silent. Brothers, we're here tonight to do something that's never been done before in the history of our club. He turned to Martha. 20 years ago, a young man named Danny Collins joined our family. Road name, Shepherd. He was one of the best men any of us ever knew. Brave, loyal, willing to die for his brothers. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Danny gave his life in service to his country, but before he shipped out, he made us a promise. He asked us to take care of his mother, to treat her as our own, to make sure she never struggled alone. Iron's voice hardened. We failed that promise. For 20 years, Martha Collins struggled alone. She lost her husband. She lost her son. She lost her home. And we weren't there for her. Silence. But then fate gave us a second chance. A tornado brought 79 of our brothers to Martha's door. And instead of locking herself away, instead of hiding from the storm, she ran toward it. She saved 79 lives that night, 79 brothers who are here tonight because of her. Iron turned to face the crowd. Martha Collins didn't know about Danny's promise. She didn't expect anything in return for what she did. She just saw people in trouble and decided to help. That's who she is. That's who she's always been. He reached into his vest and pulled out the mother patch. Tonight, we're going to keep Danny's promise. Tonight, we're going to give Martha Collins something that's never been given to an outsider in the history of the Hells Angels. He held up the patch so everyone could see. From this day forward, Martha Collins is no longer an outsider. She's no longer just Danny's mother. She's our mother. Every brother, every chapter, every state. When she needs help, we answer. When she calls, we come. Because that's what family does. Iron turned to Martha. Do you accept this patch? Do you accept us as your family? Martha looked out at the crowd. 600 faces, 600 stories, 600 people who had come from all over the country to witness this moment. Her throat was tight. Her eyes were wet. I accept. The crowd erupted. Cheers, roars, the thunder of 600 voices raised in celebration. Iron pinned the patch to Martha's shirt, right over her heart. Then he pulled her into a hug that lifted her off her feet. Welcome to the family, Mom. The celebration lasted all night. People Martha had never met came to hug her, to shake her hand, to tell her stories about Danny. Music played, food was served, laughter filled the Oklahoma night. Around midnight, Martha slipped away from the crowd. She walked to the small memorial garden someone had planted beside her house. 79 rose bushes, one for each biker she had saved from the tornado. And in the center, a stone marker with Danny's name. Daniel Shepard Collins, a son, a soldier, a brother, forever remembered. Martha knelt beside the stone. Hi, baby. She touched the cold granite. I know you're watching. I know you've been watching this whole time, probably laughing at your crazy old mom, getting into trouble with a bunch of bikers. She smiled through her tears. I understand now. Why you joined the club, why you kept it secret. You found a family here, people who loved you for who you were. I just wish you'd told me. She wiped her eyes. But I forgive you. Of course I forgive you. How could I not? You're my son. You'll always be my son. And I'm so proud of the man you became. Martha pressed her hand against the stone. They kept their promise, Danny. 20 years late, but they kept it. I'm not alone anymore. I have a new house, a new family, a whole new life. All because you thought of me, even when you were facing death. Her voice broke. I got justice for you. The man who killed you is going to prison. The story is out there. The world knows what happened. Your name is cleared. Your legacy is secure. She kissed her fingers and pressed them to the stone. Rest now, baby. You've earned it. I'll be okay. I've got 400 brothers looking out for me now. She laughed through her tears. Guess you knew what you were doing after all. She stayed there for a long time, talking to Danny, telling him about everything that had happened. The tornado, the cellar, Iron, Preacher, the trip to Nevada, the confrontation with Whitmore, everything. When she finally stood, her knees aching from kneeling on the cold ground, she felt lighter than she had in years. The weight was gone. 20 years of grief, 20 years of anger, 20 years of loneliness. Gone. Not forgotten, never forgotten, but transformed into something else. Into purpose, into family, into love. Iron found her there as the sun was rising. Thought you might need this. He handed her a cup of coffee. Thank you. They stood together, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. What happens now? Martha asked. Whatever you want. I'm 67 years old. Most people my age are thinking about retirement, nursing homes, the end. You're not most people. No, Martha smiled. I guess I'm not. She thought about everything that had happened. The tornado that destroyed her old life. The bikers who built her a new one. The truth about Danny that had finally come to light. I think I want to help people, she said finally. The way you helped me. The way Danny spent his life helping others. What kind of help? I don't know yet. Veterans, maybe? People who've lost loved ones in war and never got the truth. People who are struggling alone because nobody told them there was family waiting. Iron nodded slowly. We could do that. Set up a foundation. Use the club's resources to find people who need help. The Danny Collins Foundation. I like it. Martha looked at him. Will you help me? I'm your son now, remember? Of course I'll help you. Martha laughed. I went from 0 children to 600 overnight. That's got to be some kind of record. Probably. They stood in comfortable silence as the sun climbed higher. Iron? Yeah. Thank you. For everything. For finding me. For telling me the truth about Danny. For giving me a reason to keep living. Iron put his arm around her shoulders. Thank you for letting us in. For trusting us. For being exactly who you are. Martha leaned into him. I'm glad the tornado brought you to my door. So am I, Mom. So am I. Behind them, the party was finally winding down. Bikers were packing up, saying their goodbyes, promising to return soon. Martha walked among them, hugging everyone, thanking them for coming, telling them to visit any time. Tommy was the last to leave. You gonna be okay? He asked. I'm going to be better than okay. You sure? Martha looked at her house, at the garden, at the sun rising over the Oklahoma fields. I'm sure. Tommy hugged her tight. See you soon, Mom. I'll make coffee. He laughed, climbed on his bike, and rode away. Martha watched until he disappeared over the horizon. Then she turned and walked back to her house. Her house. Her home. Inside, she found a letter on the kitchen table. She didn't recognize the handwriting on the envelope. She opened it. Mom, by the time you read this, you'll have received the patch. You'll officially be one of us. I know this whole thing has been overwhelming. Believe me, I remember what it was like when I first joined the club. It felt too big, too intense, too much to take in all at once. But here's what I learned. Family isn't about blood. It's about choice. It's about showing up. It's about being there when things get hard. You showed up for us when we needed you most. You opened your cellar to strangers. You saved lives. And then you opened your heart to us, even after everything we told you about Danny. You're the strongest person I know. Danny used to say that all the time. He was right. Welcome to the family, Mom. You've always belonged here. It just took us 20 years to find you. Love, Iron. Martha read the letter 3 times. Then she folded it carefully and placed it in the drawer where she kept Danny's letter. 2 letters from 2 sons. One lost, one found, both loved. She made herself a fresh cup of coffee and walked out onto the porch. The morning was quiet now. The motorcycles were gone. The field was empty. But the rose garden was blooming. The house was warm. And somewhere out there, 600 brothers were riding home, carrying her memory with them. Martha sipped her coffee and smiled. A year ago, she had been a widow waiting to die. A month ago, she had been a woman without a home. A week ago, she had been a mother searching for justice. Now she was something else entirely. She was Martha Collins, farmer's daughter, nurse, widow, mother, survivor, hero, mom. She had opened her cellar to 79 strangers and gained 600 sons in return. She had searched for truth and found family. She had lost everything and discovered that everything she needed had been waiting for her all along. Martha looked up at the sky. I did it, Danny, she whispered. I finally found my place in the world. The wind stirred, warm and gentle, like a hand brushing her cheek, like a sun saying goodbye, like a blessing. Martha closed her eyes and let the sun warm her face. She had spent 20 years in the darkness. Now finally she was standing in the light, and she was never going back. People sometimes asked her, in the years that followed, if she had any regrets. She always gave the same answer. Just one. I wish I had made more coffee. Then she would laugh, and 600 Hell's Angels would laugh with her. Because that's what family does. They laugh together. They cry together. They shelter each other from the storms. And sometimes, against all odds, they find each other exactly when they need to. Martha Collins found her family at 67 years old. It was never too late. It was right on time.